very busy now.
Not busy during night time, family time.
Great. So we're just gonna get straight into the questions right away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Robin, can you just give a little bit of introduction on your business, Phoenix and Remax Masters, briefly?
Yeah. Okay. Good evening, everyone. My name is Robin, and it's been an honor to be here tonight and as a panel speaker and with George together. I've been running Remax Masters real estate office for over 16, 17 years. We joined Remax 2 years ago. Before that, we were independent real estate office, real estate agency, a Masters Realty based at Sunny Bank, and we had 2 offices, Masters Realty Sunny Bank and Masters Realty Commonwealth. And 2 years ago, we joined the Remax, and so we continue to use the Masters and combine the name Remax Masters. So we're still using the name, and till now still running as Remax Masters. And Phoenix, another story, and I started Phoenix development company 2 years ago. I'm the director, CEO, and got a partner as well. That 2 years ago, and we did a couple projects. There's another company before that. So that's a
nutshell.
Yeah.
Good, thank you. How about you, George?
So just about Balance.
Yes.
So Balance, we specialize in providing independent banking and debt advisory for business banking and corporate banking clients. So in a nutshell, 50% of the business is specialized for business clients who already have a business lending with a bank, and we would have came into this relationship to actually do the full review and do the forecasting model and find a way to improve the current debt structure. So in terms of pricing, security structure, and covenants conditions, and also security positions. So pretty much negotiate with the incumbent bank. So pretty much in a nutshell is to improve your banking overall solution without changing the bank. So unlike the traditional broker who actually need you to change one bank to the other. So the another 50% of the business will be for any new transaction. We are actually acting as the finance broker for the business lending, and we sort of arrange the solution for the clients for the particular financial needs. And yeah, that's pretty in a nutshell.
Great. And how long have you been an entrepreneur, George?
So to April this year, that will be 4 years. And prior to that, I was about 10 years at National Australia Bank, business banking.
And Robin, like you started Masters Realty a decade or 2 decades ago?
Masters Realty been there 25 years. I'm the third principal, and I started working there 2001. That time just moved to Australia. I just just try to find a job and knock the door, and the door always open. The real estate office and if anyone wants to join the real estate office, just knock the door, and you're always welcome. And so till now it's the same. And that time 2001. Just came here and so joined the real estate office. And that time was the barrier was very low, and 5 minutes, multiple choice, and got my license straight away. So till now I'm still in the real estate.
Very good.
Yeah. Focus on residential. We are only doing the residential local established properties, and so till now we are doing property sales and property management. And Phoenix doing residential development as well, small projects.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great. So George, I know that you worked for quite a few positions in a major bank in Australia. So what events occurred to you that make you want to start your own business 4 years ago?
So pretty much, because my story started in about 2001. So I came to Australia in 2001 as a high school student, and did high school, then university, joined National Australia Bank as a teller, and I was, I feel I was the luckiest man in the world. I got a job in a major bank in Australia. I should make my parents proud. And after so many years in the business banking environment, I sort of feel in Australia banking in general, business banking is switching to focus on the like probably more about the KPIs, the revenue growth and lending growth rather than the clients. So you probably have come across your own scenario where you have experienced you have a manager, dedicated manager for you, but you probably experienced the change of your manager 2 times, 3 times in a year. And sometimes when your manager, when you form a relationship with the bank, you sort of want to keep that long term. But in the current scenario, it's not that, it's not the case. Probably you've come across many, like from the banking perspective, many bankers or decision makers, they are sort of doing internal meetings and instead of spending time with the clients. So the idea is to pretty much form this business to really bring the benefits from out of the banks back to the clients, and that's the key. And that's how we sort of started Balance at the beginning.
Great.
Yeah.
Great story. So Robin, according to your experience, and observation as well, how do you think, how has the property development industry changed over the last decade?
Oh, big question. First of all, I'm doing property development only last 2-3 years. So if I'm talking about last 10 years, probably not really the right person to talk much. But I can, from my observation, I've been in the real estate industry last 16, 17 years, and there's a lot of changes. And I think particularly in residential development, project development, I think everyone can see that more efficiency using of the space. So the residential lots are smaller and smaller, and from the CBD, 5K around the CBD area to the suburban area, 20K away from the Brisbane, you can see that 20 years ago, very, very normal average 600 to 800 square meter lot. I mean, I'm talking about individual dwellings. Now you can see that only 200, you can buy a small lot and a big house, building on a small lot. So this is a biggest change in terms of land, which means that the residential land is not as same as before. It's rare now. It's a kind of the government, local council, very particular in terms of developable land size. They are very cautious. They don't want to release too much. Every 5 years, they will review their plan and zoning. Different councils have different zoning plans. You can check the website, and they only allow you to do development in a which is strategic area, the corridors, the traffic corridors, or population follow the trend. So follow the infrastructure. So the lots is smaller, and but the efficiency of the usage of the space, the energy, and the quality of the building material also improve a lot. So this has happened to me in the residential development, and of course the price also increased a lot as well. And Brisbane is very reasonable, and Melbourne Sydney kind of crazy because of demographic, and that's the kind of a thing. And last 10 years, the demographic changed a lot. We are talking about property or development. We never talk about property itself. We have to talk about social factors, demographics, politicals, economics, all these factors. And there's a lot of influencing factors. Yes, the market changed a lot. So, yeah, last 10 years, I can see that really there's lots of changes. And yeah.
Interesting. So George, according to your, observation, because I would imagine many of your clients are property developers as well, what have you observed in the past 10 years in the property development industry?
So I would say now it's in 2018, so going back to 10 years, that's 2008. That's 08, 09, that's where GFC hit. So pretty much when GFC occurred, everything stopped. So there's no activity whatsoever at pretty much that period of time. And it has just been flat for property development. And up until 2012, I would say that's where the current cycle started. from 2012, and it sort of peaked at 2016, 17, where you have seen probably from 2015, 16, 17, there were so many developers out there. People just, I've got so many clients that are developer clients, and probably have one of the largest portfolio in Queensland. And like to a point, it became too costly to do a development, because everyone is paying a premium for the development side, and where they don't do their numbers upfront. So they ended up buying a very expensive site and not be able to produce enough profit for the development. So, and also because there's an oversupply on the current market in terms of units, and especially in the inner city area. So the pre-sale has been slowing down, and not unless the developer can develop a project by cash. If they need to borrow from the bank to develop, they have to satisfy the pre-sale requirement. For example, if you develop a 50 units development, the bank probably require you to sell 30 pre-sale before your bank will lend you the finance. So that's the key point where pre-sale is not happening. So everyone is stopped, and a developer draining out. So for those developers who think they can make a profit but not reaching the pre-sale, they had to either to borrow from the private lenders instead of from the bank, which is a very costly exercise. And otherwise, if they have the cash, yeah, they can hold it, but it's not the time. So pretty much up until 2017, mid-2017 to now, it's like a downturn. Now we're pretty much in a downturn of a property development. But I would say for property developers, there's all sorts of property developers. Like lots of my long-term property developers, they tend to continue to develop through the cycles, regardless whether it's up or downturn, and they actually switch from different areas. Say now it's not the right time for residential development. They probably do some commercial, like such as retail, such as industrial, and such as office. They actually switch to different development types, and they're still making good profit. So I would say experienced developers, they actually tend to continue the development throughout the down, up and down. But for those who the new entrants, they actually follow the trend, they probably get caught at the last.
Yeah. Interesting. Robin, I know that you started Phoenix after Masters. So what has happened? Like what happened to you that helped made you decide that you want to shift from property trading, or expand from property trading to property development? Like what was the thought rationale behind?
I think I'm sick of selling houses.
Other people's houses.
Being the real estate broker or broking service, selling, buying, and managing for a while, for over 10, 14 years. I've done so much, and every day at the beginning, I had to knock the door and talk to people, and drive around and drop the flyers, cold calling, all these things, and I've been doing the last 10 years, and also leading the team, training and motivation and pushing, and all these things, and this is part of the product line. It's a real estate office it's customer service. You don't have products, and what you have is your hands, your brain and your service. Every day you connect with your people, and the service is the customer service industry, and everyone is a businessman, but we don't have products. And so what that's part of my my dream, and been selling houses so many years, and they used to deal with all the developers, builders, and they're building houses, and why can't we do it? And so that's why I decided to jump in this industry. It was crazy, and but was a big challenge, and you can't do it yourself, to be honest with you. You have to have a team.
Yeah.
You need to have a very professional team. You need to have a qualified engineer, civil engineer, environmental engineer, architect, a surveyor, and of course you need to know finance. You have to borrow money, how to manage your cash flow, and this is the biggest challenge, and to run a development company, and it's a combination. It's not just a selling skills. It's your management, project management. Also, you have a project manager, and you have a very reliable builder. You have to deal every day. You have to deal with all this. I think each project we have to deal more than 50 different kind of small entities, traders and different companies for a project. So this is a huge step and a huge challenge. You know, I've been doing 3-4 years, managed, and you know, it's quite sometimes very frustrating, lots of stress, and I would rather go back to sell the houses, listing, and conduct the presentation and the open house is much easier. It's only one by one, but as a developer, it's different. It's involve all the strategies and the marketing, and as George said, now the market downturn, and as a small developer, it's harder. It's much harder than big players. Big players, they have a huge funding backbone. They have the system. They have different product lines. A small player, you only have 1 or 2 products. Once the market changes the direction, you will stuck there, and you run out of cash. And how can you survive? So this is lots of challenges.
Over there.
Yeah.
So, speaking of borrowing money, George, like when a property developer comes to you and they want a bank loan, how do you help them? If you can briefly go through the process.
Because today's topic is about property development, so I would say I will just explain about how we engage with the clients for property development. Because there's different stages where we can engage with property developers. Pretty much at the early end, where developer wants to buy a land to develop, whether you're doing a residential, like say units development, townhouse, land subdivisions. So that's when you buy the land, whether you have a DA or not, then we can arrange finance for that land acquisition. So if you already own the site and you want to develop, do the construction, that's where we do the majority of the work. That's the construction finance. We actually work with the clients very closely from day one. And in a project, we act as the finance manager for the entire project, pretty much from the beginning until the completion of the project. So even we have negotiated finance with the bank, and bank draw down the funds for you. That's just the beginning, because throughout the entire development project, the project can have a cost overrun, which is over your budget. Then the bank finance will just stop. So you have to put in the difference. Then the bank funds would come back again. So that's the issue, and we have to negotiate with the banks pretty much throughout the way from the beginning to the end. And when developer finish completed the project, say if you have a development 50-unit development, you have sold 40, you ended up with 10 left, and it's not it cannot be sold, and you're not going to hold it. But that's probably the profit for the developer. So we arrange the finance to lend against the leftover stock and to get the cash out from the leftover stock, and we actually arrange that finance too. So there's pretty much 3 life stages for the developer that we can engage. And I think one important point is why the clients have to engage with us instead of going back to the bank directly without us. Because business banking or business lending is very different from home loan. It's very subjective decision process. So if you are talking about a home loan, probably as long as you have the salary or the income, and regardless whether you're going through the banker, going through the broker, it's probably, there's not going to be much difference. But for business lending, it's very subjective. If you go into the same bank today, 2 different managers, and you probably end up with 2 different results for the same transaction. It comes back to the experience of the banker you deal with, and how the banker know about your project, how well they know you. How do they present the case to the credit, and what's the relationship between them and the credit managers? So actually all this, we actually do all the upfront work, including all the credit analysis, all the preparation, and we actually present the deal to the bank when we think it's doable. And also we present it to, we actually go to the right bankers. Like to me, for development finance funding, sometimes it's not about the bank, it's actually about the banker. So a good banker can back you up for the development finance, and even they're from like a not so well-known bank, but vice versa. In a very big full banks, they can have some very unprofessional bankers where they can ruin your project. So finding the right people, doing all the upfront analysis, and with the right presentation is the key, and that's the whole part that we do for them to get the finance funding.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Is there any questions from the floor so far? Yes.
I have a question. How do you both see, because you guys are sitting there, I'm just thinking, in terms of finance, there's all these fintech companies, and also with development and properties. Obviously, I was talking to someone who's doing like an online platform for properties as well. How do you guys see the technology sort of impacting on those industries and you guys?
You jump ahead of the
Yes.
Lindsay.
Sorry. Always thinking ahead.
Yeah, Robin, do you want to share something?
Okay.
In terms of platforms, what's the, kind of platforms? Can you clarify the finance platforms or?
I was
Technology.
thinking, like any digital platforms in general, whether you're getting finance or getting property information.
Because one of the audience, actually, I spoke to him as well. He is working on like a real estate, like .com.au kind of website, but they have their own focus. So I guess just technology-enabled platforms. Like, are you like, what are your thoughts on them? Are you willing to try them, or do you think it's just not a possibility at all?
Okay, from a residential development point of view, I think the most important for us is to start from a feasibility study. And the feasibility study, you can see on the market, there are hundreds of different versions as a project management. That's a very important and a critical tool for us to make any decisions before we go ahead or not. And I think that's a kind of a technology assisting us to, by collecting all the necessary informations, through the system, and then generate a report. And what we are using is very basic and quite a popular system for us to update and to follow, to generate. And this system can generate a very comprehensive feasibility report for us to make any decisions. I think that's a part of a technology we are using. Be honest, really, other than that, we haven't seen much any other, information technology.
Yeah.
But the information technology, most important is we collect the information, track the information, and you need to have to know where to find out this realistic or true information figures. As a developer, we are relying on the, I'm not a surveyor, I'm not a town planner, but we are relying on the council website very much, very heavy. Each council website, Brisbane City Council website, Logan City Council website, they have a huge information, and also they have their engineer and town planners and updating all this information. So we're using lots of information from that website. And also we have to use a lot of marketing information from the REA, realestate.com domain and other website. Yeah. And all this information helping us, assisting us to make the right decision. And so we are relying on technology, all this information system a lot, and but not a fancy one. And for me, I haven't touched any very advanced, information platform yet. And of course, the new fancy like a 3D renders, all this, architect they're using, we are trying to follow as well. And you can have a visual tool, where and you can visualize your final product, which is great. And some developer using that already.
Yep.
And it's very, especially those big projects, and you really need to have vision to see the final products. And we are at this stage, we are still relying on the 3D rendering. That's good enough. And cost, of course, is another big issue. Any advanced technology, very expensive.
Absolutely. So George, with your industry, do you think yourself rely on your experience more, or do you use some fancy technology or tools to help you make more informed decisions?
Yeah, actually this is in two folds. So I've got two live case example for the technology application. So one of my developers doing a project in Brisbane North, and he has been using realestate.com to actually promote the development project, and it has not been really well received in terms of the conversion. And lately he actually started to use Facebook, so social media marketing, and surprising, he actually have a much more conversion for the project marketing compared to realestate.com. One key thing is because the project is in Brisbane North, so when he select the target audience, actually target in that Brisbane North area. So when you get a Facebook, you actually Facebook tells you, knows the audience is actually about the age between 25 to 40 in the Brisbane North area, and they actually target in the areas in particular, and they actually are getting a very, very good result. And for the same budget he spent on the real estate, they probably have you might have 2 or 3 times more conversion rate than a real estate. And one of my developers also using this VR technology for the demonstration of the product, such as instead of doing a showroom, they actually do a VR using the VR technology, and especially with the young generation, it's been very well received.
I would imagine the VR experience is much more lively than a virtual tool video on the website.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And
with Facebook marketing, like what you say is exactly like how it helps advertisers to save money, because you can limit the geographic location down to 1 km radius. So if you don't want to target people like in another suburb, you tell Facebook that like it's all just mapping within the audience tool on Facebook, and that's how you probably get a lot more conversions. It's just because your product offering is a lot more relevant.
Yeah, I think it depends on the product target. So that product, that developer is mainly for the local resident, for residential living purpose rather than investment. So actually in particular targeting the local area. But say if it's an investment product, then it's probably a different strategy for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
And one more point about like our, in finance perspective, decision making in terms of technology is more on our experience rather than like a bot, because there are a couple of fintech company in Australia that we know of. They have spent millions of dollars trying to come up with a platform where they can do a crowdfunding for a project, but at a small scale it's probably okay, but on a larger scale it's not been very successful. So decision making for finance comes back to people at the end. So yeah, it's people.
Does it make your job very geographic related though, like because Brisbane market very well and all the major banks and how they deal with commercial loans? Does it make it hard for you to go to another city or another country to work for the same industry?
I think for development, probably local knowledge is more applicable, so and more relevant. So we do focus on say Queensland. But say for property investment or everything else, yeah, it's not really limited to Queensland. It can be anywhere in Australia. Yeah.
Cool. Robin, do you have some criteria that you can share with the attendees today when it comes to selecting sites for property development?
Yeah, there's over hundreds criteria in terms of selecting a site. Like you are buying a house, and before you go out to look for a house, probably you have your criteria, and you, not only yourself, your wife, your family, your kids, and as a developer, same, because we are not our criteria follow the market, and first of all, you need to know what kind of product you're gonna produce, you're gonna deliver to the local market, or you're gonna deliver to investors, or you're gonna target on interstate market or overseas market. So it's based on your whole marketing strategy and what kind of product you're gonna produce. If you're a purely local developer, you probably just want to, or you try to create some local products. And you need to understand the local demographic. You need to know how old they are, what kind of family structures, how much income, and based on this study, then you can narrow down your criteria, and whether this site I'm just building if for example, if this is the Kapalaba we're building, we finished the project over there, and that area is quite an established area. We need to know how many local residents there, what's the average median income, and what's the most popular structure of the house or townhouses, and this kind of a study will guide you to decide what kind of a criteria, what kind of site you have to acquire, and also will depends on your costing, your land acquisition cost. And if this area very popular, established, and also aging area, maybe it's good to build some smaller villas or duplex or townhouses for retirees, for old family, or maybe for young couples trying to live closer to their parents. Or maybe it's good rental market, maybe to build some properties, more affordable properties to investors, have a higher rental yield rather than looking for capital gain in the long term. So this kind of a study, you have to analyze the market, you have to understand the local market totally. Then you can decide what kind of site you're gonna approach, you're gonna acquire, and what kind of products. And the product gonna be the 2 levels, or ground floor, or small or big, how many garages, how many bathroom, toilet. So this is very detailed features of the property from all the criteria, and so this is all kind of related to each other. So as a developer, we have to understand a local market totally, as George said, and doing finance as well. And if you don't understand the local market, you want to copy the product from one area to the other area, definitely not. And so you have to purely, the best way is to talk to the local agents, talk to the local residents, and get more ideas before you really make the decision. Of course, every day we have to study the site, and we got tens and hundreds sites, from the agents calling us, we have this site available. So we have to do all this study and start from the top, which is what kind of product we're gonna deliver to the local market or to our clients who are gonna buy this. And we have to try to, like a chef, you have to cook something for your different customers to follow their taste or flavor. So this is the same thing. Yeah. So it's not easy in terms of criteria. There's hundreds. Yeah.
Thank you. And George, as a commercial loan broker, how much do you have to know about the property development industry in order to provide a high standard service to your clientele?
Pretty much, because our focus is on the finance, so we need to keep up to the bank policy changes, at all time. I think one common mistake developer makes is they assume the bank is going to finance the project. So by the time they actually have everything ready, they go to the bank. Bank say no. That happens all the time.
Always.
Yes. So bank policy can change from time to time with no pre-notice can sort of demonstrate it to you. So for a project, from the time you acquire the site to the time you're ready to actually construct, it can take 12 months. So bank policy can change. Like you can get a bank pre-approval letter at the beginning, and that will last for 3 months, and that will expire. And by the time you're ready to finance, and it's it's no longer valid. So bank will take back their offer. And knowing being in this industry for more than 10 odd years, it's always, I know the bank policy changes from time to time. Some banks are relatively stable, and some banks change dramatically. Some bank can just turn the tap overnight and with no apology, and that's a bank have to make decision. They have to make profit, and they need to avoid all the risk. So that's just the way it is.
I've got a question
Yeah.
for both of you guys. For developers, would you guys ever buy a site and hope in the future it'll get rezoned, like LMR or something? Would you do that, or would you only buy a site that's already rezoned?
I think Roman will have a good say about it.
That's a good question. And if buy the site, hold for the future, it's just like you are gambling. Developer never gamble, and the developer doing things based on the study, based on the possibility. And if the site is current zoning is, we have a different kind of zonings, and developer always try to, achieve the yield they're expecting. And if it's code accessible and zoning already medium density, the developer have to follow that. If the emerging community and impact accessible, we have to change the zoning. Gonna take a longer time. But the developer never buy the site to hold it unless those are big developers. They are land banking. They try to buy the site hold it for 5 years, 10 years. That's their equity. They use a lot of money to buy that. On the book, their equity. They keep going up. The value keep going. Smaller developer can't take that risk. We have to buy the site subject DA, subject to whether we can change the zoning or whether we can get the development approval by the council. So we can't buy at the site and hold it. Like normal people, maybe property developers or someone can, like a lots of I know Chinese owners, they buy the site and hold it, waiting for another 5 years, change the zoning, which they won the lotto, and which is good, and good luck, and the bad, it won't happen to developers. That's too risky.
Interesting. Any other questions?
Can I actually add something to that particular question? Because this is a very interesting topic. Because from the finance perspective, I've come across so many different developers throughout the time. If you have enough cash, you can give it a try and buy it, hold it, and don't worry about it because there's no cost to it, or there's an opportunity cost. And I've got clients who, if they know this area is having a master plan happening, they actually we call that land banking. So we land banking the land for 10 years, sometimes 20 years. So I know a couple of developers that they actually buy the site and hold it for 20 years. And after 20 years, they open the magical box and they just pick a site, and it almost costs nothing at a time when you look at it, 20 years later. And they pretty much do this exercise to accumulate enough sites from over the time, and they actually they bring a site to development where they purchased, say, 20 years ago. And if you have enough capital to do it, that's a way you can try it. But for the zoning exercise change, I have clients do it, and I have clients to avoid it. Depends on like Robin said, it's sometimes gambling. It may or may not happen. Sometimes you're right. Sometimes you may just hit a lotto, but depends on the chance and the luck.
Yeah, I think a definition of a developer is to develop. You have to do something. You can't, just buy it, hold it, wait, and it's not developer. It's kind of a investor, or we call investor or speculator, whatever. But developer has to develop, have to involve development activities.
Yeah. I think there's a question over here.
Thanks for sharing. My name's Rafer. I was the guy making funny or weird comments to Lindsay about the trendy technologies. So I guess my skepticism lays in more of the business model. So say for example, if you look at buying a house, this kind of real estate industry, typically we're having one buyer and a seller. In between there's this agent. Virtually it's the seller's agent. My criticism is, the world is tends to be moving towards the trend of being more efficient or capital friendly, or faster, everything this kind of way. But virtually, if you look at this model, the seller's agent can be deemed as an active cost. No offense to myself, I'm an agent as well. But having all of those, let's use the word trendy, those big data or big platform. Virtually, we're seeing, say, there's this big platform with all of the sellers putting their properties or projects on this platform. Buyer being me myself, okay, I'll pay for the buyer's agent. and the agent is using his time to trade the commission from the buyer. So I guess that's from my point of view, I think that's it's more of an industry revolution possibility in terms of. My question, I guess, is
What's the
very
question?
simple. sorry. I think it's where do you see the value of being the seller's agent in long term?
Okay.
Big data
Are you-
and-
I think what you meant is, do you think your industry is going to be wiped out from the planet as a technology
Okay.
advances?
I think I'm the right person to answer you because I'm in the real estate industry, also development industry, and as a real estate industry, and I've been a sales agent for 16, 17 years, and I always have the same question, and it may happen, and the more advanced technology at the end may replace you, and sellers, house owners, they won't need you to help them. But we are human beings, don't forget. Like you go to the restaurant, you're sitting down there, and what you are expecting? Someone service. This service, if come out a robot and give you the menu, or menu you can already, select through your app, and there's no any interaction between you and the human being. At the end, even the cooked dishes all cooked by the robot chef. Will you like it? Will you differentiate the feelings there? Because each meal is presented to you in front of you is a story, is a content, is an experience. The chef cook it, compared with the robot cook is totally different. Same as the real estate industry, and you need a human. We are human, unless at the end the human nature vanish. We are not. We are all robots. We don't have feelings. That's all right. But once you are the dominant species on the earth, and you still need to deal. You still need to deal with a human being, right? And so this is not a development related in the question, but in no matter what kind of technology or advanced platform generated, human beings still need a shelter to live. And so as a developer, we still need to build a house, a proper house to accommodate people. So this industry will stay, will be more advanced, technology will assist, will help, will improve the efficiency of your dwellings, your accommodation, make you people feeling more comfortable, but won't replace it because you need a proper dwellings, you need a house. Yeah, you can't live in a kind of a VR world. You have to live in the real world. Yeah, so this is my answer.
Great. We're running a bit out of time, so I'm just going to jump to my last question. And if you still have any more questions with these two speakers, please feel free to ask them after. With the recent change in regards to overseas investment occurred in China, have you noticed any drop in the property development market from the Chinese buyers and investors?
I'll go first. Yes and no. So there is a sign of decreasing in developer volume in general. So whether it's Chinese or non-Chinese. So, but on the other hand, Chinese developers relatively still wants to get into some sort of investment or return. So especially with the developers with the capital in Australia, they want to get a return. They don't want to just put in the bank to earn a 2% term deposit. So they still, like with the recent couple of auctions, I know some development sites are still achieving very, very good result, where we are forecasting, probably half of that, but actually surprisingly, it's going still pretty well. And once again, depends on the developers, the strategy, whether they are cashed up to hold it for long term or whether they wanted to just to do something immediately. But yeah, it's yes or no question.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, the overall Australia property market really is not dominated by Chinese developer or buyers. Is majority still local developers, local buyers, and the Chinese buyers only the recent last, before 2017, with the stronger economy and the more wealthy medium-income family from China, they started bringing out their capitals and try to diversify, try to allocate different regions, and for the safety reason, whatever the reason, our study, education, migration, so they come in here. But they are, if you do the study and statistics showing Chinese developer or Chinese buyer, not a majority, they are very, very minimum minority, and so it won't impact on this Australian property market. And we always hear or read some news of wealthy Chinese bought a spend a fortune, spent $1 million. That's only one case, and you didn't hear the other case. Some people from Singapore, Hong Kong, British guy or European guy, and they pay more, and they lots of transaction done through them, and it's actually more
off market.
Yeah, and so Chinese really is just a minority, and don't really manipulated by the media. And really, as a developer, we have to the basic fundamental part of the developer. If you want to succeed in the long term, you have to follow the market. You have to follow the local market. You have to know where is your majority market is. And if you only target on the Asian market or on Chinese market, that's too risky, too dangerous. So you have to go to local, and you have to understand the local market.
Great. So to sum up our event today, could you just summarize a piece of advice in one sentence for any new entrants who want to get into the property development market?
Don't do it. No. Joking. If you really want to, and you have enough spare money, and you have to understand, as I said, local market, and you have to learn first. You have to gain the experience, and don't throw the money in. That's too risky. And if you have $1 million, better put in the bank or buy some financial products. And also you have to know how to use the leverage, and have to ask George. And the leverage, if you're using very well, can create more wealth to you and your family. But if you're using too hard and very aggressive way, it will kill you. So the leverage is the key. And if you want to make fortune, make money, make wealth, you have to use leverage. And you can't use your cash. You can't use your capital to invest. That's a waste of money. So the leverage, how to use the leverage, ask George. And but my really sincere suggestion is
Don't do it.
consider twice before you really go in. And but you have to study, have to learn, and maybe work for someone else. And first, join a developing company, start it from beginning, and gain some experience. Then you will start from there.
It's a really long sentence.
Oh,
So
I'm because I'm too old.
If just one sentence, I would say, come to see me. I will give you the solution. But I would say do your numbers before you do any development. A project can be analyzed on the feasibility, whether it's profitable or not, because you can assume the acquisition cost with all the numbers that's easily to determine, and ask your local agent about the sale price, and you can work out the cost and the return. If it's not feasible, don't do it. And if it is reasonable, probably you can give it a try. But you have to save some money in your bank account as a buffer for any unforeseeable events. And if you find a good site, just give it a go. But do the numbers and come to see me.
Great.
That's me.
Thank you so much for your time today.